Hey friends, welcome back to Crime Adjacent, the #1 true crime podcast in the entire world, thanks to you. I'm glad you're here. The case I have for you this season 8 if you can believe it, is confounding and creepy and terrifying, like spiders running under your collar and down your neck. It all takes place in northern Michigan, and if you haven't been there, you might have seen the commercials. The Pure Michigan tourism campaign spends millions each year to attract visitors to its endless lakes of sea glass blues and greens, its white beaches, and its postcard-perfect gas lamp and white steeple small towns. You get the picture. Quiet, peaceful, relaxing. But they don't mention this in those commercials. Michigan is a breeding ground for serial killers. The Ypsilanti Ripper, the Sunday Morning Slasher, the Oakland County Child Killer, the North Fox Island pedophile ring, a dark foreshadowing of Epstein's Island. But nothing compares to what happened on Walloon Lake in September 2024. Because there, a man in a long tan coat and a clown mask broke into the vacation cabins of single women in the dead of night, and then he would creep to the foot of their beds, gently remove the covers, and rub their feet, whispering, "So smooth," until they woke up, screaming. Early on, the local newspaper, the Petoskey Tribune, dubbed him the Walloon Lake Clown Creeper because he crept into cabin after cabin, night after night, woman after woman, turning the quiet vacation land upside down. It may seem far-fetched, I get it, like something out of a horror movie. But the thing is, the more I researched for this season, and you can look this up for yourself, the more I found this type of thing was actually common. More common than we'd like to believe. Nevada, New York, London, Australia, there are documented cases of men breaking into roadside motels to rub feet, or even suck on toes. But Walloon Lake, this entire case, this whole season, was different. Because it went from creepy to deadly in the span of days, with murders stretching from Petoskey to Traverse City. And I should know, because I was there, right in the thick of it that week, from the first foot rub to the first murder. And it all started on Thursday, September 26, 2024, on Walloon Lake, where a woman named Claire woke up close to daybreak to find a man in a clown mask at the foot of her bed, reaching under her covers and massaging her feet. Like I said, the locals, they called him the Creeper. But once the murders began and the whole story was revealed, a new name emerged. This is the season of the Michigan Nightstalker. In this episode, we're exploring Michigan's serial killers, why people have a thing for feet, how this case started in a quiet cabin in the middle of the night, and how yours truly got caught up in it simply because I happened to rent the cabin next door. Here's the story. But first, hey friends, our first True Crime College live stream goes live next week, December 3rd, at our Patreon site, patreon.com/crimeadjacent. The premise is simple. I assign a short reading about true crime and profiling, or that sweet, nerdy convergence of sociology and pop culture and crime, and then we chat about it. It's like an ongoing education for us super cool true crime and audio drama podcast nerds. The first reading is from historian Dr. Joy Wiltenberg, and it explores something I've always been fascinated by and felt somewhat guilty about this fascination. True crime, and why we're drawn to it. Good news, Dr. Wiltenberg has theories, lots of them, about why we're drawn to true crime and for how long. Turns out, humans have been looking into the darkness since, well, forever. I'm excited to share this one with you. The essay is on Patreon right now if you want to read it beforehand, but hey, no pressure if you don't. This is supposed to be fun. I'll do a short recap and then we can just talk about it. So head on over to the Patreon site, patreon.com/crimeadjacent, to learn more about the True Crime College and to gain free access to weekly live streams. I can't wait to meet up. From San Francisco, this is Crime Adjacent, the never-ending true crime story told weekly. I'm Chase Patrick. I need to be upfront about something, just to clear the air first. I met Claire Gasley earlier that evening, on her dock. We were cabin neighbors that week. She was up north to celebrate a big business win with some relaxing nights on the water, and I was up north determined to keep a promise to an old buddy. On her dock that night, this is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024, just hours before everything happened. We chatted, drank some bourbon, got to know each other, and then parted ways, saying we'd do it all over again the next night. We never got the chance. I headed off to my cabin, Claire headed off to hers. I should pause here. I know what you might be thinking. Some of you might have recognized that name. Yes, that Claire Gasley. She's been in the papers, or at least all the major financial press. But if you haven't actually heard of her, you've probably heard of the businesses she has brought to life as an investment banker. She helped launch Pet Disco. Yes, the Pet Disco, the app that matches dog owners for playdates and dating. Genius, honestly. She told me she discovered the founders at her dog park in New York and they got to chatting. They were young, just out of college, and had a pretty cool idea, but absolutely no idea what to do with it or the business acumen to make it happen. Enter Claire. She got them early rounds of funding, a management team, PR, and then, after everything was up and running, helped take the company public. The kids, as she called them, made a fortune, and so did her bank, and so did Claire. She said the last time she had a big win like this, she headed off to the St. Regis in the Maldives, tossed her cell phone in the turquoise water, and hunkered down in the day spa for an entire week, enjoying endless massages and room service and champagne. That actually sounds glorious. But it also sort of factors into what happened next. Because this time, she gathered 5 books she had never had time to read, a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle her boss gave her, and then headed off to a cabin in the woods on the shores of Walloon Lake in northern Michigan. By late September, most of the tourists had gone home. The locals were pulling in their docks and preparing to head to Florida for the winter. So she practically had the lake to herself, settling into a quiet cabin just off Grueller Road on the northeast shoreline. No spa, no room service, no distractions. It was everything she wanted. Just a week alone to recharge and do nothing. That's when it happened. Claire said she went to bed that night, Wednesday, after we parted ways. She read a little bit of Taylor Jenkins Reid, highly recommend, and then drifted off easily and soon had the wildest dream. She was suddenly back in the Maldives again, in the day spa, at the St. Regis, getting another massage. But this time, somehow, it felt better, more focused, more intimate. Expert hands toured her feet, her ankles. She could feel thumbs pressing into her arches. Claire opened her eyes, self-conscious and groggy, and bourbon still flush in her system. And she realized, slowly, that she wasn't in the Maldives. She wasn't in a day spa. She wasn't getting a fancy massage in a fancy resort. Far from it. She was in her cabin on deserted Walloon Lake with a man wearing a clown mask, a man who just continued, even after she woke up, to press his thumbs into the arches of her foot, a man who whispered, "So smooth," as Claire Gasley scrambled backwards against the headboard and began to scream. Terrifying, I know. Far-fetched even, like, why? Is this an actual thing men do? Turns out, yes. This is not a horror movie, And Claire is not alone. This has happened before, plenty of times, all over the place. Here's what I found in my research for this season. During the July 4th holiday in 2023, a man on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe broke into the ground floor unit of a condo resort in the town of State Line, specifically to rub women's feet. The first time happened at 4:30 a.m. on the morning of Sunday, July 2nd. The man creeps in through an open door, rubs the woman's foot, she wakes up screaming, and the man bolts. The very next morning, at the exact same time, in the exact same resort, the same exact thing happened. The man creeps in, rubs a woman's feet, and then escapes through the open screen door. Just like the Petoskey newspaper would have a name for the lake creeper, the Tahoe Daily Tribune newspaper dubbed its own intruder the Tahoe Foot Fondler. He made national news. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office said they tracked down a 27-year-old California man named Mark Anthony Gonzalez through quote-unquote forensic techniques. Like, come on, my dudes, just say how. They arrested him for burglary and battery, saying he stole the women's shoes and even pleasured himself during the attacks. The sheriff said he admitted everything, claiming he suddenly developed a foot fetish, got drunk, and, well, decided to act on it. In 2024, he made a plea deal for the burglary charges and was sentenced to 4 to 10 years in prison, according to the Daily Tribune. The thing is, for his survivors, it wasn't just creepy. It was life-altering, as you might imagine. The Daily Tribune spoke to one woman. She said she woke up and confronted the man. She told the newspaper, "I will not forget how he crawled on the floor after he touched me in my most vulnerable state. Honestly." The paper spoke to the husband of another survivor, who wakes up now at every bump in the night, whose family home is enmeshed in a net of security cameras, of whose most restful hours are now the source of endless nightmares. These women, just like Claire, they're not alone either.
Parles-tu français? Hablas español? Parli italiano? If you've used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world. With lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers, Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Wondery. Spelled BABBEL.com/Wondery. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The Nashville, Tennessee police reported that in March of that year, 2023, the night manager of a motel made up his own key card and crept into the room of a guest at about 5 a.m. and then proceeded to suck on the man's toes. Honestly, I am not one for paranoia while traveling. I'm a former street kid who became a force recon operator after Susan's murder. I've told you all that on previous episodes, so I won't sidetrack us here right now. The point is, I can handle myself when needed, but we're supposed to trust the hotels and the people who work there. I am 100% rigging my own door locks from now on, like, why risk it? But the scariest thing of all is that beyond rental cabins and motels, it also happens in homes or even just out on the street. In Bradenton, Florida, in 2020, a man was soundly asleep on Christmas Eve when he awoke to an odd sensation. There was another man in his room, at the foot of his bed, sucking on his toes. The Bradenton Herald reported that the man woke up and got into a fight with the assaulter, who said simply, he was there to suck on the toes before he fled, like, matter of fact, I'm here to lick your feet, so what? In 2012, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported that a man pretended to be with the TV show and approached a woman in Walmart, claiming everything she purchased would be free if only, you guessed it, he could suck on her toes. There are similar stories like this from Australia to New York to Michigan, year after year, place after place. You're sound asleep, happily dreaming away, and there's a man removing your covers, licking his lips. My dudes, honestly, what is going on here? How is this a thing? I looked into it, and criminologists, they have a lot to say on this subject and have been studying it for years, so I guess the first nerding out of the season is already upon us. I'll get back to Claire and what happened in a second. For starters, let's get this out of the way. In regular, happy, consenting sex lives, fetishes of all types are completely normal. In fact, foot fetishes and shoe fetishes and general sexual interest in feet is pretty common, with some studies saying it's among the more popular consensual fetishes. No bigs, no kink shaming here. Some people call themselves like, I'm a butt man or a boob man. I can think of one super popular pop star who wrote a public ode to her fiancé's junk. I'm here for it. You go. But when the consensual fetish turns non-consensual and almost compulsive, that's when issues arise. That's when a normal fetish turns into something worse, something criminal. A landmark 1999 study by Schlesinger and Revich examined burglaries just like those seen on Walloon Lake or Lake Tahoe. They were working off early FBI profiling hunches that many more murders were sexual in nature than once thought, and so they applied this to burglary. Once thought only to be about monetary gain, the authors looked at why some burglars were after fetish items, like shoes or socks or stockings. Is that for monetary gain or something else? I mean, you're not breaking into homes to suck on toes for money. At least, I hope not. The study found that of 52 murderers who committed sexual murders for their own sexual gratification rather than, say, revenge or money, 22 also committed burglaries of a sexual nature, like for a foot fetish. This study sought to build on and confirm work by FBI profilers Dr. Ann Burgess, who along with John Douglas and Robert Ressler and others, wrote about this prolific progression towards sexual murder. Dating back to the early 80s, they had witnessed this progression take shape from early peeping to voyeurism to sexual fetish burglaries to an ultimate endgame of serial sexual homicide. Most famously, when it comes to feet, they looked at serial killer Jerry Brudos, who developed an early foot and shoe fetish and who then went on to murder 4 women in the 1960s. You might recall this from the book or TV show Mindhunter. Brudos severed some of their feet and stored them while also keeping their shoes and stockings. The FBI profilers noted his interest in feet and shoes occurred at an early age 5, when he first saw a young woman in high heels. Things sort of spiraled from there until one day he was stocking his fridge with body parts, I guess. Again, I feel like it needs repeating here before all the mail pours in, and I need to be explicit. When the FBI was first coming up with profiling and trying to apply science to crime to help catch these serial perpetrators, things like foot fetishes were described as deviant and abnormal. Today, things are different. Even WebMD has gotten into the mix, saying plenty of people have all sorts of healthy sexual interest in all sorts of different body parts, or even non-body parts. It's called objectophilia. Cool. Okay, sex positive all the way. I think we're all adults enough to understand there's a big difference between being sexually interested in feet and severing them and storing them in your family's garage. Oh my God. This is beginning to sound like I have a foot fetish and I'm defending it. But no. I'm making these distinctions because it became important to the Walloon Lake case in September 2024. Because in the days to come, things would indeed spiral, especially when one suspect's history came to light. Because just like all these criminologists and FBI profilers might have predicted, the normally peaceful lakeside community would see the sexual burglary and battery clown break-ins escalate to murder all across the northern tip of the mid-shaped state. And it all started with Claire. That morning, before she packed up and fled, she made a long statement to the sheriff. The exact timeline for the break-in is a little wobbly, so the best we can do is narrow it down a little based on her account in a 911 call. Here's what we know. Claire said as soon as she woke up and screamed, the man bolted out of her room, carrying a bulging canvas bag. This becomes important. She didn't check her watch immediately. She was obviously too freaked out and scared. But by the time she did look at her clock, it was 6:08 a.m. And she recalled again, it took her some time to even think of checking the time. At first, she was too busy trying to find her phone, which had bounced off the nightstand as she scrambled to break free. As soon as she found it, she called 911. The county sheriff's office investigation shows this call came in at 6:05 a.m. So from that timeline, the clown creeper was scared away probably a minute or so earlier, so 6:04 a.m. I tell you all this because the next part is downright creepy, unsettling. Claire said when she scared the clown guy away, he didn't stop and search around for her shoes, which she realized later were all missing. No, that bulging canvas bag in his hands, he had come prepared. He apparently hunted down her shoes first, packed them up for easy escape, and only then turned to Claire. Why is this so creepy? And why is this timeline so important? Because before Claire woke up, before that 911 call, before she figured out what time it was, we really have no idea how long the clown guy was in her cabin or what he was doing. There were no working cameras or alarms or modern technology tracking mechanisms at all. The clown creeper could have arrived just minutes prior, bagged her shoes, and then started rubbing immediately. Or worse, he could have watched Claire sleep, alone, for hours, just standing in the corner of her room, watching. The thought of it sends chills down my neck. This timeline is important because it also explains why I didn't see or hear anything or even know what was going on at the time. Remember, I was in the cabin next door, but I didn't hear a thing. Not a scream or a car or a boat or any commotion at all. It's possible if I actually was in my cabin at the time, I might have heard something. But I had left early that morning, probably just shy of 6 or so. Old habits die hard, and I'm usually up and running before 6 every morning. My cabin had a nice paddleboard set up, and I was eager to go swimming. My adopted mother, Susan, was a huge swimmer at Aquatic Park in San Francisco, and I always enjoyed the feeling of being out there with her in the waves, bobbing along, admiring the skyline from the middle of the bay. It was like meditation almost. So that's what I was doing at the time. Not much of an alibi, I know, and this became a problem very quickly. Because as I was paddling back to my cabin after a nice swim, completely unaware of what had just happened at Claire's cabin, a jet ski approached. That's how I really got pulled into this case, the jet ski. I was nearly to my cabin, sort of daydreaming about another night on the dock with Claire. I was looking forward to it. I'm not ashamed to admit that after we parted ways the night before, Wednesday, I went and found her TED Talks on YouTube and was becoming enthralled. Anyway, so this jet ski suddenly arrives. Fast. We were the only people on the lake that early morning in late September, and it's just barreling toward me with no indication of stopping. The jet ski, I would later learn, was driven by a sheriff's deputy by the name of Alex Swanson. She was young, had a blue sheriff's ball cap, and a pair of jeans, which I thought was strange for jet ski duty. Like, where's your wetsuit? I don't know what I was expecting, but I also noticed her shoes were untied, her shirt half tucked in and out. This told me she had gotten up early and was out on the lake quickly, probably dressing in the dark. Something was up, for sure, and whatever it was a big deal. Like I said, I didn't know yet about what happened to Claire at that moment. I didn't know about the clown, or the break-in, or the foot rubbing. All I knew was that I had just enjoyed a quiet, peaceful swim on a quiet, peaceful lake when the sheriff's deputy sped up to me on her patrol jet ski and slammed it sideways into a rooster tail. I nearly tumbled off the paddleboard from the waves. Welcome to Walloon Lake, I remember thinking, what's happening? As I struggled to stay afloat, unsteady on the board, Swanson immediately pulled her gun. She shouted, "You're under arrest. Don't move." Honestly, at first, I thought I was being pranked. But I clocked the shore and could see 2 sheriff's cars now, lights blinking in the early morning among the sweet elms and the paper birches. The thoughts raced. They weren't there from my cabin. I was out here, after all. I didn't call them. In the cabin on the other side of Claire's, it looked dilapidated and burned almost, like an abandoned haunted house. Claire and I joked about this cabin just the night before, wondering why on earth someone hadn't bought it and restored it on this lake chock-a-block with million-dollar vacation homes. It stood out. No, maybe some kids had broken into it and vandalized it, I thought. But then again, the gun. Drawing a gun on a suspected house vandal seemed harsh. The thought hit me with a sudden shot of adrenaline in the gut. Claire. Something happened to Claire, and it was bad enough to draw a gun on tourists. I tried to paddle to shore, but Deputy Swanson cocked her gun and growled, "I said freeze." Welcome to Walloon Lake, indeed. Next time on Crime Adjacent. Sheriff Morgan Press was waiting for us at the shoreline. This is Deputy Swanson's boss. Whereas Swanson was new and young, Sheriff Press had been patrolling Walloon Lake for nearly 35 years. She had long gray hair tied up into a ponytail under a similar blue sheriff's ball cap and a blue sheriff's jacket. She'd seen a lot. Noise complaints, drunken boaters, the occasional burglary or break-in during the winter months when a lot of residents headed south to Florida or the Carolinas. But never something like this. Or I guess that's not right. She'd never seen anything like this since the previous week. The clown creeper had apparently done this before, just the week prior, although he hadn't brought his own bag that time or taken any shoes. The creeper, it seemed, was escalating. Don't forget to check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/crimeadjacent because we have free live streams and behind-the-scenes information about this show and our first True Crime College next week, December 3rd at 4 p.m. Pacific Time. I can't wait to see you there. Until next time, this is Chase Patrick from San Francisco with a reminder. It's not crime, it's crime adjacent.